Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Scary Stories by the Campfire. We are your counselors, Jeremy,
And Jason.
and today we have quite a doozy of a movie to talk about. We have one of the most iconic movies in the horror genre, one that spawned 9 sequels, a crossover, and a remake, Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Yes, yes, it is. We're
So,
on to a new series. We don't have to talk about Freddy no more.
yeah, no more Freddy.
No more
So,
Freddy. Freddy's finally dead.
so Jason, why don't you start us off with it? What did
Oh,
you
this is going
think
to be.
of Friday the 13th?
Oh, this is going to be weird. I mean, we've been talking about Freddy for God, like forever now. It's going to be odd to talk about something different. This is actually, it, for me, this is actually more of a new twist because like I said before, we've been watching Freddy movies for whew, good couple months, I think, right? Give or take. Yeah,
Yeah,
about
6 movies.
there's only
Three,
six.
four, five, six.
Oh,
No,
well,
7.
7 movies for 7 weeks we've been watching just nightmare movies, and um, now we're getting into, in my opinion, we're getting to what is an actual slasher film. Now they may consider Freddy and the Nightmare series to be slasher films also, but to me, this is the quintessential slasher movie. And I hate to tell ya, and Mom's gonna hate me for this, I find this movie to be relatively mediocre. Okay, it is by far not my favorite of the franchise,
uh, I can definitely
but
say it's not my favorite either.
it is a nice, refreshing twist because we're not dealing with the Freddy psychological. Are you asleep? Are you not asleep? This is literally, well, in this movie, spoiler alert, they even referenced it in Mom found out how to text. um
Oh, sweet lord.
I know, you see that, she can now jump into the chat now. This is quintessential, like what a slasher movie is, and spoiler alert, like I said, it, and they even referenced it in Scream, where he's like, who's the killer at Friday the 13th, and Drew Barrymore messed up by saying it was Jason. It's not. It's Pamela Voorhees, and there's no mind games. There's no playing around. She just goes out there, stalks them one by one, kills them, and uses their bodies as props. And we'll get to that later because this woman has got some body strength to her.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean I like the movie, but it's just not um my favorite out of the series.
yeah, and Clayton, welcome to the campfire. Um, yeah, I can say the same. It's definitely not my favorite in the series. Um, but it accomplished its goals. It accomplished what it set out to do, which is make a horror movie, make a slasher movie. And I don't know if looking back, you know, one thing I can say some of the positives is Tom Savini's, you know, makeup work for being a movie that came out in 1980 was on point.
Yes.
With like it was, I think that's one of the strong points of this movie and what keeps it going so well. It's just the amazing makeup that they were able to accomplish back then. That and the buildup of 9 sequels that have come after it to help push it through, and it created a good foundation, I think, for the series as a whole. Uh,
What year did this movie come out? Do you remember?
1980,
80?
right on the dot.
What year did Nightmare come out?
I'm honestly not sure off the top of my head.
Here, I'll look it up real quick.
Um,
Because what I noticed in this movie is that there was no CGI in this movie at
none,
all.
none at all.
None. There's not. I mean, even that poor snake they killed in the movie.
Oh,
It wasn't even like they used a fake snake. It was like real snake, kill it. And
yeah. So for everybody who doesn't know, if you've seen the movie, the snake that's crawling through the cabin when they flip the mattress up and they chop its head off with a machete, um, that was a real snake that they actually killed on set. But it wasn't just some wild snake; it was a trained acting snake that somebody let them use, and he didn't know they were gonna kill it, and they ended up killing it, and he tried to sue. Poor snake.
Nightmare. Yep, Nightmare came out in '84, so 4 years after this one.
Yeah, so you have a little bit more time to get the CGI, and stuff like that.
Actually, I don't think the original Nightmare had a whole lot of CGI in it involved.
I,
Maybe anything they could practical effect, I think they did.
what I will say is there was more blood in this movie than almost the entire Nightmare franchise
Okay,
of the original series. Just so you
did
know.
did you forget Glenn's death? I don't think
Okay, that is true.
it's gonna require a couple more Friday movies to catch that amount. But yeah, they used up the whole entire blood budget on the first movie before they got to the rest of them. But yeah. So, Jeremy, what was your favorite part of this movie?
My favorite part. Okay,
Yeah, what was your favorite?
so
What was your favorite part?
knowing, just like knowing like what Betsy Palmer looked like, and just watching her throw like what she did to these corpses after she killed them was just great to watch, in my opinion. Especially when she like threw Brenda through a window.
Yeah, it's funny because you don't actually ever see her interact with any of the bodies. I mean, of course, it's like probably a stunt double who's, grabbing them, or you see when you see the hands, it's definitely probably someone else. But you're seeing bodies strung up in trees. They're being what? Bill was like, he was hoisted, he was up on the door with like
Pinned.
the arrows. He was pinned. He had to have been picked up and put up there. And and of course Brenda being thrown through a window. So you're looking at, how old was Betsy Palmer at that time when she filmed this
I'm honestly not sure.
movie?
I can find out really quick though. She was born in 26, so she was 54.
Yeah, so you're looking at a 54-year-old woman throwing teenagers through windows and hoisting them up, though, like I said, never explicitly shown on on screen. Bill was already hanging up there, and Brenda just kind of came through the window.
And
But
Steve was hanging from a tree upside down.
yeah, so you have to actually imagine her having to do all this, and then she just shows up for Alice. It's like, oh, hi, I'm here.
But
You
but
know?
but the best part was after she threw Brenda through the window, she ran and grabbed her Jeep and
Yeah, she had to
drove
run
it
down
to
the road and get
the front door.
she had to run to the. Now this that we're gonna start seeing a trend here. We're gonna start seeing a trend here, especially when we get to the later Friday movies. Is that the supporting cast? The focal point is the teenagers, but here's the dilemma.
You mean these
Just like
teenagers?
Nightmare, huh?
You mean these teenagers?
Yeah, but I mean, like when you're watching the Nightmare movies, your focal point is Nancy and Glenn. And as you progress through the movies, Freddy becomes the focal point. You don't really care about the other characters, they're just there to die. It's going to happen the same way in Friday.
Yep.
As we progress through, Jason becomes the focal point, and who cares about the supporting characters? In this movie, the supporting characters are not that great. Shocker, right? They kind of just show up and die. I mean, I don't think any of them actually had a personality to them.
No, I mean the very beginning, the two counselors in like the attic looking area.
Yeah, that sets off the what this movie or this series is, whether it's drugs or sex, you are going to die because of it. That's
But
you know.
what I did like, one thing I did like about it, I didn't like it as much as her unbelievable Super Saiyan strength, but what I did like was um, the first person stuff at the beginning, how they keep it a mystery of who's doing the killing and stuff like that. But before I go off on that tangent, I just have to say, Mom put in the chat the Baconator buns.
The Baconator buns. Yeah, we couldn't stop talking about that during uh Monday movie Mondays. Because we all sat down, we watched this movie, and there is a scene between Kevin Bacon and his love interest. And throughout the entire movie, we're just calling Kevin Bacon the Baconator, right? That's what we've been calling him. And they're having their little romance scene or whatever, and she's reaching down, she's grabbing a handful of his buns, and we were just like, she is just messing with the Baconator's buns. Um, so
But this was also not the Kevin Bacon everybody's used to. It's kind of like the Johnny Depp in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, if you go back and anybody who's a fan of Kevin Bacon, like if they go back and watch this movie, that it's not the Kevin Bacon everybody knows and loves. It's not the Footloose. It's not the Trimmer. It's like, yes, he's in it, but he's just kind
he's
of
in it for
there.
like what, 15 minutes, 10 minutes tops, give or take. I mean,
He's
he shows up. I don't even think he's got any real good lines of dialogue.
I don't think so. He's just kind of there.
Yeah. They all had they all had generic personalities, at least in my opinion. I mean, Alice is definitely kind of the final girl. Um, Ned, of course, is going to be the comic relief because he was just doing stupid stuff all over the place. Even though I don't think I found him very funny, he was more just kind of an annoying character.
Yeah, I can see that. He'd be that annoying friend that I just want like go away.
Yeah, I mean, he literally shot an arrow at a target while while Brenda was standing next to it, and he thought it was funny. And that's kind of dangerous, Ned. What's wrong with you? That's
So
why you died.
fun fact about that.
Oh,
Tom Savini is actually the one who shot that arrow, and that's what was in the film.
hmm.
Special effects art makeup artist Tom Savini was the one who shot that arrow and almost hit Brenda with it.
Well, speaking of um, Tom Savini, I'm pretty sure he was the one who was also doing Kevin Bacon's um, death scene. They were the way the death scene worked is that uh, Pamela Voorhees would grab um, Kevin Bacon's character from underneath the bed, and she would stab him in the neck with the arrow. And I guess in the process of them doing that, they were supposed to have some sort of pump or something. I don't remember exactly what the tool was that they were using, but they were supposed to puncture the throat, and then this machine or whatever was supposed to pump the blood out. Well, I guess it broke as they were going through, and they only had one take to do it in. They couldn't do it again if everything messed up. So I think it was Tom Savini who was up underneath there, and he had to put the tube in his mouth, and he had to actually blow the blood out. So when you see the spurts of blood, that's him getting the blood to come out, and that's why it probably looks a little bit cheesy sometimes. But I think overall the effect is pretty good, and it is a pretty good kill right there.
It's this is my favorite kill in the movie. Um, because of that. It's not only just watching it on TV or watching it in the movie. Watching that hand come around and like grab him by the top of his head, and you just see this arrow slowly start to puncture, right through his right below his windpipe above his sternum. Like it was just cool to watch, and to know that it's practical effects and that they're actually making this stuff work to make it work always makes it a ton better. The only other kill that I really remember or enjoyed was the actually there's two.
I
One,
think there was I think there was only like three on-screen deaths
yeah, so
throughout the entire movie.
Marcy's when she was in the bathroom and she got the axe to the head.
Hmm.
That one, and Steve's was just hilarious to watch because it looked like he just got punched in the gut one good time.
Yeah, um, his was another one of those kind of silly, kind of freeze frame um, deaths because they did that in we did that in the beginning of the movie. She kind of
Yes,
stabbed the one counselor and he just kind of bled out and died, and then it went to the female and she just kind of died in a freeze frame.
Annie
And
Annie's death was decent too for what they were working with. Um, I did like that one too, chasing through the woods and stuff like that. Although Betsy Palmer can move fast.
yeah, and like I said, for this series is going to get more gruesome as we go. I know I think the next couple of movies has kind of like the more deaths on screen. This one lacked a lot of that. Like when you think of Friday the 13th, you think of Jason butchering people, and really this being the start of it, you think it would be a little bit better. I mean, it is a very solid start of a slasher flick, but I mean, you get all out of all the characters that die in the movie, only three were on screen with any sort of like special effect.
So,
Um,
so
Jack in the neck, Marcy with the axe, and Pamela Voorhees with the decapitation.
yeah. So I was gonna. Who then is your favorite character in the movie?
Oh, wow, really, really, Jeremy? That's a hard one considering that you can't really like any of them because you don't know any of them. You don't know their wants or. I guess it's gonna be. I'm gonna go with Ralph.
Hey, that was mine too.
Ralph.
Just
No,
because,
I mean,
uh, Walt Gorney, the actor who played him, just it was just fun to watch. He was great. You know, popping out of the pantry, going, "This place is cursed. You're
yeah, I
all
don't know.
doomed if you
Yeah, I
stay
don't.
here."
Yeah, I don't know exactly how
Doomed.
he got in there, but I do want to say that I did like Alice, the
Uh,
main final girl. She was actually relatively smart to an extent. There
she
was that
ties
really,
with Betsy Palmer for me as second.
yeah, and it was really kind of funny because we pointed it out. But there's a scene where she sees Bill, and he's stuck on the wall or the door, and she closes the door, and she takes this rope and ties it around the handle, and ties it up to the ceiling or the fan or something so that. But then she starts barricading it, and we got to noticing it was like, how are you barricading this? Do you not remember how the door opens? We know it's not a double swinging door. It doesn't go out and in, so it has to go one way. And I think it went out. It's
It
an
did.
outgoing
I'm almost.
door.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because Bill is on the other side of it.
it's a swing.
So it had
It's
to
an
go
out
out.
swing indoor.
Yeah, so the way she had tied the rope would have prevented the door from opening, but she barricaded the stuff. Like if she put the stuff there, Pamela Voorhees, all she had to do was open the door because that stuff wouldn't have stopped the door from going that outside. So it was just kind of funny that she doubled up on it. Like I'm gonna tie this here so it can't go out, but just in case I forgot that it goes in, I'm gonna put this junk in front of it. I don't think she knew how to get out.
Yeah, I think Raven also agreed with us on Ralphie being the best character because she just started going in the chat. You're all doomed. I think that's what everybody remembers the most about this movie is that and uh, Pamela Voorhees going, "Kill him, mommy, kill him."
Yeah, had a bit of a reverse psycho there where Instead of the son was acting as the mother, it was the mother acting as the child. Um, but yeah, I do think Alice, in her own right, was probably a one of the stronger final girls in this, in really any kind of slasher movie, because she did, as Ravenfire said in the comments there, she actually fought for her life. She didn't just act defenseless and something happened, So
So there's a couple things that actually made me look at this. So first off, as we know, and some people, other people know, it was filmed in New Jersey at Camp Novi Bosco. Still an active camp, but apparently they have a wall of memorabilia for Friday the 13th. And because it was an already active camp, all of the cabins there were already built and in use for the camp. And the only thing that they had to build was the bathroom set. But unfortunately, only one of the toilets worked. And for some reason, nobody knew that. So they had to
they were
like go
just,
clean toilets like every other day.
you'd figure that out once you maybe like the first time, just flush and nothing happens.
But apparently, a lot of the crew stayed in hotels during filming. But Tom Savini actually stayed at the campsite the entire filming time.
I would.
And
You got a functional camp there. That's literally beds and stuff for everyone, and you can make it look, because I mean they're out there cleaning the camp, so you can make it look kind of messy.
yep.
You don't have to make your camp bed afterwards.
So this movie had a budget of $550,000. Take a guess at how much it made in the box office. Not opening night, but across the entire board.
You said $550,000
That was the budget.
was the budget. Yeah, I kind of look like that. Um, I'm gonna go with probably a million.
A million?
Oh, Buck Hunter says 2 million.
2 million. Any other guesses out there?
Come
Um,
on, come on, mother,
right,
mother, mother. Oh, Raven
Ravens.
says yes, 1.5. She's gonna split the difference. She's
All
like,
right. And the answer is 39,754,601.
it made what?
39 million.
39 million. What? Oh, Mom just said three. We were all lowballing. We were all like, oh, it only made like $1 million. No, 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 39 million.
Yep. And
Wow.
Tom Savini was brought on because of his work with Dawn of the Dead. I forgot that he had done that makeup too.
Yeah, the original Dawn of the Dead.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got a lot of credit to him. He's got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and he did great work.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently something kind of curious, and it kind of made sense once I read it. Victor Miller actually admitted to purposely writing the success of Halloween with this movie. They even approached Halloween's producer, Irwin Yablans, to produce it, and he declined. They were
So they were trying to mimic it, I suppose, is what you're trying to say.
probably, or at least, create something similar since Halloween did so well. Make something relatively close to it.
All right, Jeremy, pop quiz. What year did Halloween come out?
1978, I believe.
1978. Let me see here. I'm gonna
I think it was
test.
78. I want to say it was
Since
78 or 76.
what was your first one?
78.
78. Yeah, 1978.
Bam!
Yeah, you got that one. I can't remember years worth anything.
But even though this movie only made 39, what did I say, 39 million? Yeah. It was 18th highest grossing that year for the horror genre. Because The Shining came out the same year.
Ooh, that's some competition right there.
Dress to Kill, The Fog,
Oh,
and
the
Prom
fog.
Night all came out that same year.
That was prom night. Was that the other Jamie Lee Curtis movie? She was in prom night, right?
I think so.
I think she was in the original prom night.
But and apparently the MPAA told producers of Friday the 13th to scale back on the gore for the sequel.
What gore?
I have no idea.
What gore are they talking? Well, I mean, you're talking about the arrow. Yeah, that's kind of gory, and you're talking about the axe to the head. That's kind of gory, and the head decapitation. But really, tone it down. Give them a couple more gut punches. I
Yeah,
mean,
they regretted how much gore got through the original.
that yeah. I guess it was a different time also. So I mean, because I don't think Halloween was that gory. Halloween was
No, Halloween was not gory at all.
Halloween was
There
pretty
was
tame.
there was no
It's wi-
blood in the original Halloween. There's a little
it's
bit, but not like it's like on the knife, and that's about it.
yeah, it's kind of weird how old horror movies, the ones that you remember, don't tend to be as gruesome as people make them out to be. I know, like there was a lot of talk when Texas Chainsaw came out, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People
Yep.
were talking about how disgusting and disturbing that movie is, and I actually watched it for the first time in a full sitting a couple of years back, and I love that movie. I love that movie, and I was expecting something a whole lot more gruesome than what I got, but it's more of like a weird art film, you know.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's more the idea that they kill these teenagers off or whatever, and then they put them
Eat
in
'em.
chili. Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, like even the scene where he puts the girl on the meat hook, you never see any of that actual physical brutality. So it's just kind of interesting. So this one probably is. Yeah, I can see this as being kind of the more quote unquote graphic movies, even though at least compared to the remake, this is tame. This is you ain't seen nothing yet until we get to that killer cut of the Friday the 13th remake, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. The remake was really good, and there is a lot more to it than that. But the last little fun fact for you: Betsy Palmer said that if it wasn't for the fact that she needed a new car, she would have never accepted the role of Pamela Voorhees. In fact, after she read the script, she called the movie, and I quote, a piece of shit. Over the years, however, Palmer did warm up to the film as it made her famous, more than infamous, and made appearances at conventions and documentaries to talk about the movie. So I guess
Yeah.
over time she gained a new appreciation for it.
Yeah, that's I think we're talking about kind of low budget horror at this point. You know, nothing really big, nothing really fancy about it. It's not like, someone comes to you and says, "Hey, can you read this movie for this new Avengers movie or something like that, this script?" And you read it and you go, "Wow, this is actually really bad." But I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I'm making a lot of money. And then they do the movie and they may come back, a couple of years later and go, "Yeah, that was kind of a mistake." But I think with a movie like this, you go in and you go, "Yeah, you know what? This movie is awful. I don't like the way the script looks, and I'll still take it because I need some money." And then they do it, and then they realize how big of a following the movie does get, and then they actually appreciate it more because they're like, "Wow, I'm actually kind of glad I did this." It may not have been fun doing it, but I appreciate, how much it's touched everyone.
I mean, the same can be said with Kevin Bacon and Trimmers, and when we get to that, I mean, he said the same thing. He just needed a paycheck, so he did
Mm-hmm.
Trimmers, and now Trimmers has this giant cult following because of Blockbuster and video rentals.
Yeah, I think he even came back to do like the quote unquote remake for it or whatever that remake TV movie or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
ever think it got released, but like, yeah, kind of missed that train, didn't you, Bacon? Could have at least been in the second one
No,
with Earl.
it said we got Grady.
Yeah, Grady.
Uh, so
Jumping movies.
one um one scene I did notice that I really found to be quite humorous was the fake drowning, because I noticed like when he's underwater. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's Ned, but he's like drowning underwater, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's drowning! Get the canoe!" So they grab the canoe. One girl grabs, the life preserve. Kevin
Yeah,
Bacon goes belly flopping straight into the lake to go get him.
yeah, with Brenda, they
With
both dive in like they're lifeguards.
yeah, except Bacon's more of like a belly flop through.
Yeah, it was kind of painful to watch. I thought
But when they
my
get
stomach
to
was
him
hurt.
and they pull him up out of the water, and the camera pans back, and they're literally like 2 foot from the dock.
I don't think they were 2 feet. I think they could have reached him from the dock. They could have just like leaned over and grabbed him and just pulled him up.
But I thought it was quite humorous. Like, it's those little details, kind of like with Pamela Voorhees and her superhuman strength. Like, those little details that you start to notice, like, how did that even happen?
I
Like,
don't know, but I think the Sandlot ripped off that scene though. I'm just saying, as the Sandlot's ripping off this movie now.
oh man, that was a good one. So, I think we established that Kevin Bacon was your favorite kill. So that's a good one. Um,
Mm.
so on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you thinking?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give this movie a 6.
All right, so you're giving it a 6. Why?
I'm gonna give it a 6 because it's high. 6 is a high number. Mom's gonna debate me on this. She's like, "It's a 10. It's a 10." I give this movie a 6, Mom, because 6 it got high points because it is the start of this grand franchise that we're about to go through. This big serious horror genre of films, but it doesn't rank higher because it's just, if this did not have a following, if this was the only movie and there was never a Jason Voorhees, this is like a mediocre movie. No one would really, pay attention to it too much, at least in my opinion. The people I she's she's gonna fight me. Um, you got stars like Kevin Bacon in this movie, but none of them have personalities. None of them. Yeah, they're semi likable characters. I mean, Bill plays a guitar, and Kevin Bacon with Kevin Bacon's character Jack. Jack smokes weed. Ned's an idiot. Brenda is kind of like, I guess, the group mommy. She's kind of leader, I guess. Marcy has like almost no personality except just to be the love interest in that, or to Jack. The Christie guy who is actually opening the camp just disappears halfway through the movie just to come back and die. So yeah, and even Pamela Voorhees right there at the end, she shows up, and that's about the most exciting portion of the movie. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a strong 6.
So I'm gonna give it a 6.5. Um,
Oh, mom's gonna get me first just because you bumped it up to a 6.5
um, well, hold on.
now. Oh,
Yep,
no,
six
you
and a
did.
half. I'm gonna say
I was-
6.5. Only because, so, for a couple of reasons. So, like I agree with what you said. Like, if this movie was the only one in the franchise, there was no sequels, no Jason Voorhees, none of that, then this movie would be one of those. It's either going to be a cult classic that everybody knows and makes fun of all the time, or it's one of those ones that nobody knows anything about, and it's just kind of there. And I, like you said, I know it has Kevin Bacon in it, but if you think back to when this movie came out, Kevin Bacon wasn't even popular. Like,
Mm-hmm.
his most famous movie before this was National Lampoon's Animal House. And that's not even that big of a movie. I mean, it is National Lampoon, but still.
I mean, that could be said for a lot of these horror movies, like you know, Johnny Depp being a nightmare, you know,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if.
or Jennifer Aniston in Leprechaun.
Oh, that's true, too. Like, even Footloose came out 4 years later, and that was his big break. That's what everybody knows him in. The difference between, Kevin Bacon and, like, Johnny Depp is everybody knows Johnny Depp is in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Not everybody knows that Kevin Bacon is in this movie. We do because we like it. But not.
Yeah.
If I go up to a random person, somebody who likes Johnny Depp, and I'm like, hey, do you know his first movie? Yeah, it was Nightmare on Elm Street. Cool. But the same.
I guess it depends on the person.
But I liked the casting for what the cast gave us. They gave us no talent, no personality characters, and you know what? They did it fine. Alice was the only one who seemed to have very much personality. She was the main focal point, like you said, and she's they gave her something with the art book that what's his face Chris found. Steve. Her art book where he was like, is this how I look? And she's like, you did last night. Talking about how she wants to get back into art and all this other stuff. So they tried to give her something.
Yeah.
But I think Betsy Palmer and Ralph Walt Gorney, I think they were the only saving graces of the movie.
Oh, there was one more on-screen death, Jeremy. We keep forgetting about her because she was it Annie at the beginning of the movie. She just got the quick slit across the throat.
That is true.
Yeah, that was completely forgot about that.
So that's where that's why I give it a 6.5. Betsy Palmer was the saving grace of this movie.
She did bring personality to this, at least with the kind of the weird, because
the weird, yeah, the whole child, psychological thing. That's what really, in my opinion, brought this movie up to that 6.5. Was just that final, 15-20 minutes that we had with Betsy Palmer talking to herself as her and Alice got into the many of fights where at one point she bashed her in the face with a frying pan.
Yeah, for Betsy here's where it switches gears real quick. Betsy Palmer literally picked off that entire camp, and not one person put up a fight. But then she goes after the final girl, and she is getting knocked around for everything.
It reminded me of Freddy Krueger in A Final Nightmare.
What?
Or Freddy's Dead, I mean. Yeah, The Final Nightmare.
It reminded me of Freddy from the original Nightmare. Remember when she pulled him out of the dream and it was Home Alone traps all through the house? The most frightening thing in that whole movie, and he's getting beat by a sledgehammer. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
I know after all this superhuman strength stuff, you see they get in that fight and it's just beat down after beat down after beat down.
It'd be really funny if it was actually Jason and she just never knew. That would be interesting.
And I did like the ending. I will say that. The very tail end of it. With baby Jason jumping out of the lake, pulling her under, and it all being a dream that she's after she got pulled out by the popo. Um, I liked it.
Yeah, it was kind of a shock thing. I mean, once you know what happens, it really does take the kind of sting out of it. But that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like you're at the end of the movie. She survived. She's floating on the lake. It's peaceful. You're like, oh my god, we're at the end of the movie. And then all of a sudden, you got drowned-looking Jason jumping out, grabbing her, and flipping the canoe, and then she wakes up in the hospital. So, um, yeah, I mean, the ending was supposed to, bring that last but once you know it's there, it's there. So
Yep. So 6.5 for me on the overall rating. But now we get
oh,
to look at
rotten.
the Rotten Tomatoes. Uh, so do you want the tomato meter or the audience score first?
I think we always start with the tomato and then go with the audience.
We do. So
So
the
it's just
tomato meter,
mm-hmm.
63%.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with 63%. I'll go with that.
I do too. I
Somewhere between in the 60s, just in the general 60s, I would go with.
I would more so along the lines to see it at a 65 or higher. Um, but I do. I think it's a fair score for what this movie is.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
audience
Yep.
score,
Ooh.
60%.
Wow. Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're pretty even. And it's funny that you see an even movie on between the tomato meter and the audience score. Usually, like one is super high and the other is super low, or vice versa. Like that's typically either critics really hate the movie and audiences love the movie, or audiences hate the movie but the critics are like, "Oh, this is one of the best movies ever."
Now, does it have like the 60% for the tomato meter? Is it like a fresh side or rotten side? I think it's a fresh side.
It is a
It's
fresh side.
okay. I think, and I think that changes over time. Also, I think like it could have been lower back in the day, and then as it's you know got this whole franchise behind it, people could have looked at it or reevaluated it and said, you know what, this movie's not actually that bad. And then like back then they were all just kind of violence and horror stuff, gross. But that's what they were there for.
I mean, when you're coming off of movies, big successes like Halloween, this is what was starting to come out for the horror genre. Slashers, were making their grand comeback, from the Alfred Hitchcock Psycho days,
Ah, the Rear Window.
So now we're getting into those slasher genre of horror
Mm-hmm.
where,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if you watch it now, yeah, this is funny. But back then, it was actually kind of scary. You have, and I think one thing about this movie in particular, and you could kind of say the same about like parts 2, 3, and 4, and 5, really. Um, this isn't something out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying like, yeah, some 54-year-old woman's gonna throw some girl through a window, but what I am saying is there's that. It's kind of like the Scream thing where this could happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some crazy nutjob woman goes and kills people because she thinks that they drowned her son in the lake. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not one of those supernatural style horror movies that you're watching it going, this won't ever happen in real life. I already know that.
Ah, yes. When Jason is resurrected for the third time in the movie series. Zombie Jason.
Which zombie Jason? You got electrocution zombie Jason. You have telekinetic revive zombie Jason. And then you had weird soul spawning Jason. Actually, you had
I,
4 if you count Jason X because he was rebuilt.
I also think that in Actually, I think it was Jason Takes Manhattan. He just woke up because some people were having sex in a boat or something, like right above him. And he was just like, "What? Not on my watch! Get back up here!"
That's
You
that,
know. So,
that's one of the big things about these movies. If you and we made the joke with Kevin Bacon with the Baconator. If you have sex, you're probably gonna die in this movie. In this
yeah,
series as a whole, if you have sex, you're probably gonna die.
and we'll start getting into the different Jasons, um, because if you think about it, each movie, I know it's the same Jason character, but he has different portrayals in every single movie. His appearance is always changing. And with the different actors playing him, there's always different mannerisms that are always changing with him.
I do like
Um,
that. I think that's
so
one of the
it
strong suits of this series to keep it fresh.
so he's always kind of evolving. Like um, I think it was part three where he's on the dock and he just kind of shoots that girl in the head and he's just like, and I'm walking away, and he just kind
Shot
of
her one
saunters,
handed with a harpoon gun.
yeah, and then just saunters off the dock like nothing was even there. Then you get scary Jason from the remake. Whew, Mountain Man Jason, there, boy. You don't play around.
And I
But
know
we'll get to him later.
we'll touch base into the remake once we get to it. But that was one of the things that I liked about the remake was the all the inclusions that they did from the original setup. I thought that was
And
really cool.
and they the way they interpret his, because I mean, throughout this series, you're gonna see him go from like normal Jason from the first, from 2 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, 2 through 4, because
Yes,
he
two through
he get
four.
he gets killed in the fourth movie. But then you see him in like part 6 and from then on, and he's always got like these mystery powers. He can just kind of quote unquote teleport. And if you've played the Nightmare, or not the Nightmare, if you played the Friday the 13th video game, they actually interpret those powers into the game where he can just kind of like kind of teleport to places
That
and
was always
across
a
maps
pain
and
in the
whatnot.
butt to play against somebody good because you're sitting there running and someone like just speed moves behind you and picks you up.
Yeah, or gets right in front of you. But they interpret those powers into the game, which kind of technically makes it true in the movie that he can do those things. But they were able to, in the remake, interpret those things as more of survival tactics with underground tunnels and booby traps and stuff like that. So it makes it a little bit more. Uh, yeah, I think once we get to it, we're all gonna realize that the remake, that is how you do a remake. That is like the pivotal kind of remake. Well, that and like The Fly and a couple other films. But uh,
So,
rambling.
with that being said, are you. How do you think this series is going to go in ways of like. So, we talk about how, like, um, and I know we're getting close to the end, so that's why I wanted to close with this. We kind of touch base with it on Nightmare, where it kind of does like this hill effect, where it's like good and good, and then it kind of starts centering down. In your opinion, where in this series do you think the top of the hill is before it starts its decline down?
Oh, that's going to be a difficult one. I want to say we're going to peak. Now that's not to say that the movies before it are all going to be, you know, getting better. There might be like, this one's a good one, this one's a good one, this one's not so good. This is a good one. This is the peak. But I think we're going to hit a peak probably at part 6.
I have
I
to
think
agree.
that's where
Kind of like the Nightmare series, where like two is not as good as one, but three is better than one, kind of deals. I think I agree with that, and I think 5 and 6 is really where the peaks of these movies are. I like 5.
Yeah, I know. I know. Five is kind of like everyone's like. It's like the. I guess you could think of it as like Nightmare Two
Y-
because they were trying to um, reinvent the Jason character, and I people did not respond to it very well. I mean, as a movie itself, it's pretty decent, but I think just kind of the switch up and they're just like, yeah, we're not happy with that. But I also want to say that maybe six, I think it's kind of campy. I think they start injecting humor into part six, and I may have to retract my peak point, but I do think six is probably one of the stronger ones. Um, but after that, you get like Jason Takes Manhattan and Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, and you realize that now we're in the pits. And but at least the good thing with those is that you're getting into a terrible movie. You're getting into a campy kind of fun movie. I think you can't go into Jason X expecting a serious movie. It's not going to happen. You do that, and of course you're gonna come out going, "That was a terrible movie." Yeah, it's terrible. Laugh, okay? That's all you can do with these things nowadays.
Well, with that, we are out of time here. Do you have anything else, Jason, to leave our counselors with?
Uh, laugh. No, I mean we're gonna make our way through this. We got like 10 movies we have to go through in this entire series before we hit the crossover. So I think one starting next week, um, we should rate the Jasons as we go along. We should
Okay.
do like a Jason rating compared to. I'm gonna have to do some research and figure out like if the same actor is acting, because I don't know if like parts two and three Jason are the same actor. But maybe we'll make that a guessing game too. We'll be like, do you think this was the same actor? Because I know um, Kane Hodder does a lot of the later Jasons,
He
and he's the more aggressive Jason. He's the
Yeah, he did Takes Manhattan. He did Jason Goes to Hell.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if he played Uber Jason in
Jason X.
yeah.
He might have played Part Six Jason also. I think that's where we're gonna get the peaks is when we get Kane Hodder Jason because he is. I mean, we've had like it was like three or four actors who played Jason, but he is the most famous one, and I think it's because of that aggressive nature that he brought to the character with the heavy breathing, where you see him, he's standing, he's like
Yeah,
just
and
doing the
it
shoulder things, and
it also made sense. Like you get it
very
because he does a
physical.
lot of his own stunts as well.
Yeah, very very physical. Like some of the other ones are just kind of there to kill, and then they kind of saunter around. And he really does. He puts the physicality into Jason.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm gonna stick with part six. But other than that, that's all that I have. Anything you want to end with, Jeremy?
Uh if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend going to watch it. Um it's not a long movie, which is really good. You know, it's only about an hour and a half long, so that's always a great thing when you don't have a super long movie to watch. But go watch it, and then obviously we do movie night Mondays. We'll be watching Friday the 13th Part 2 on Monday. And I'm not going to say who, but we have decided on our first guest that we will be having on here. He will be coming up sometime in the next. Uh, he's going to be in this series. Um, we know when. We're just going to wait for it to get a little closer, but I wanted to at least get that out there. Um,
Collaboration time.
yep. Uh, so that's I'm looking forward to it. Um, so we will see y'all next Wednesday, same time. same campfire. And like I said, movie night Mondays. Come join us. Bring the popcorn, bring your snacks, and be ready to laugh. Cause
Yeah, because we've definitely taken this too far. I think when it started, it was like we're gonna sit down, we're gonna watch a movie, we're gonna enjoy the movie, and then by the second night, we're just rambling through the movie and just laughing and picking it apart. It's fun. It's all in good fun. If you wanna watch the movie and you wanna delve into the deep darkness of it, you may want to watch it by yourself because we are gonna pretty much ruin it for we're gonna ruin it for everyone.
well,
But
well, everyone, have a great night. Stay safe. We will see y'all next Wednesday.
later.